Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. The child that's inside you. If you want to be a good communicator, understand the child that's inside every person. What do I mean? You see, if you want to be a good communicator and you want to understand people, when you speak to them, you want to really get where they're coming from, you want to be able to understand the early experience that they had as a child, because that makes you as a person. You see, it comes in a hadith where Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam from dusts that are taken from different parts of the world, and the composition makes up different people. So some people are red, some people are white in a symbolic sense, and some people are more mellow, some people are a little bit more harsh than others. Different people have different composition, and it comes another hadith that every child is born on fitrah. And obviously this hadith is spoken about in other sense, talking about aqeedah, talking about iman. But in another sense, we could look at the hadith and say a child is born with almost a blank slate, and then the parental experience, the interaction they have as a child really gets embedded. Imagine you start with a blank board and it starts to get written, and those edges that are written as a child in your psyche stays forever. What do I mean in practically speaking? Well, you see, as a child, if you were a firstborn and you were the firstborn and you have siblings, you tend to be a little more responsible. You tend to care about your younger siblings. If you are a middle child, you are the middle of the group. So there are people above you, people below you. So you tend to be, people pleaser because you want to, stand out, right? If you are the youngest, you tend to be a little more rebellious, a little more carefree. If you're the only child in the house and you grow up thinking you're the most important, you grow up, just being more little mature than others your age. So it affects you, even your birth order. Affects you how your parents interacted with you as a child. When you're a child, did your parents give you unconditional love or conditional love? Did they say, we're going to love you if you do X, Y, and Z? So now as a child you're learning what a love is. You're learning that if people do stuff for me, then I am acceptable. If I do stuff for people, then I am acceptable. If I don't, then no one's going to love me. Did they allow you to be who you are? As growing up, did your parents, tell you that your height, your age, your ability, how much you eat, it's okay who you are, how you look? Or did they criticize you? They say, look at your older brother, look at your younger sister. And so you grew up learning that something is wrong with me. And so and when you grow up as an adult now, that imprint stays inside. And that affects you. And you look at how your parents dealt with you when you made mistakes. What they're very harsh when you made mistakes. So you grew up learning mistakes are a bad thing. Can't touch mistakes. Gotta avoid mistakes because they're very scary. As growing up as a child, did your parents go through divorce and you experienced your world shatter in front of you? Were you bullied as a child? And you learned that something is wrong with me. Did you as a child learn that world outside is scary? These early experiences make who you are. And so, we find amazingly that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on a side example, that he was sitting one time and Fatima radiallahu an, his daughter, she walked in and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam got up. He got up and he kissed her. And you say, okay, that's pretty simple hadith, a pretty simple thing he did. Well, it means a lot, because here's a father showing respect to a young daughter, that when she comes in the room, I stand up, I kiss you, you are valuable, And you find another incident where Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a young companion, she comes and she's in the presence of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, looks at her dress and says, Sana, what a beautiful dress. You're pretty. And he gives her the compliment. And you could imagine that Khalid, this young companion, she's now filled with appreciation. So now these women, when they become a teenager, you could imagine, and they go outside in the world, and some hormonal 13-year-old kid says, oh, you're so beautiful. They don't fall for it. My father already tells me that. I already know I'm beautiful. Your little cheap words, because of your hormonal body, it's not going to affect me. You see, you are almost, inoculated. You're vaccinated. And so understanding the childhood experience, that you went through makes a huge difference. So as a communicator, you want to understand people's childhood. You have to understand what they went through in their life, because that would directly impact. One of the person I was working with in my life coaching, and he's someone that grew up orphan, and as an orphan he was devalued. He was often criticized, and people looked down on him. And even as an adult now, even though he's very accomplished, he takes a lot of interaction with people as if someone is attacking me, someone is putting me down. Someone can give him advice and he will take it as I'm being put down. Someone can make a remark about him and he will take it as I'm being criticized. See, that feeling is coming from that little child that's inside him. That's not the adult. That's the little child that's still scared, that's still nervous, still an orphan. So you have to understand and do a little self-reflection on what are your childhood experience, what you've been through in your childhood, and how that impact you as an adult, because that little child inside you is still alive and kicking. And so on another end, as a listener, as a speaker, you have to sort of understand what that person's childhood was like. Now, how do you do this? You meet someone for the first time, or you have very little time. Well, you ask them some questions. Questions like, where'd you grow up? Questions like, how was the relationship like with your parents? Because how their relationship was with their parents, with their father, with their mother, those relationship patterns is the way their relationship pattern is with other people in their life. A lot of times, if a relationship was very trustworthy, if they trusted their parents, if the relationship was where they understood that my parents took care of me, as an adult now, they project those values. But if they grew up and their father and mother always argued and fought, that has a lasting impact in their psyche. And so you want to ask questions like, as a child, were you ever punished? What would typically happen if you did well or didn't do so well? You want to ask questions like, were you ever separated from your parents? Was there a point you were sent away to a summer camp, or you had to live with your grandparents for a few years? Did that ever happen to you? And who were you close with? Your mom or dad growing up? How many siblings you had? You want to ask questions like, what their early experience with their parents was, because that will tell you a lot more than asking them about what's going on now. Because that child inside them is way more accurate. So when you meet people, get to know their background. And background meaning especially what their childhood experience like. It will tell you a wealth of information about how they will view the world, how they will take the world, and how they even perceive the world. So if you want to be a good communicator, understand people's childhood. And ask simple questions like these so that you can really get to know their inner child. And when you get to know their inner child, you will know exactly how they are, at work, at school, and you'll be able to communicate with them because you know where they're coming from. You'll be able to appreciate, not judge them, but you'll be able to appreciate their world. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.